So when we start thinking about liberty, draw is really important to you. It's not the only thing, there are other things to consider as well, but having a horse that wants to draw to you. And it's not even very natural in a horse. Mostly horses want to go away from you. Okay, so driving a horse away is usually pretty easy. Anytime I've ever dealt with feral horses, it was really easy to get them to want to go away, hard to get them to want to come in. So this is very much an adaptation. It's a learnt behavior. So to have this horse think about drawing to me, well, one of the key parts is he has to like you somewhat. If he's scared of you, it's not going to work well. If he hates you, it's not going to work well. So we're going to have to think about spending undemanding time with our horses to develop that side of it as well. But then there are other techniques and strategies we can use. One I use a lot, and I like to use this before I do too much of getting my horse to move out and come back to me and this type of thing, is I do a thing called stick to me, where the horse learns that you are the release, that you are the place to be. It's a weird concept. It must be a weird concept to them to think that the human is the release, the human is the answer. But they can learn that. So if I can teach them to synchronize with me, start to synchronize with me, start to stick to me, then just little by little I become the answer. So that if I was in a situation where my horse had left and he was pressured out there, then he might have an easier time thinking about coming back. Whereas if he'd never found that I was the answer in the beginning, he might have a tough time thinking about coming back. So just a really quick introduction to this. The idea here is I will use my halter and lead rope as a safety net. So I'll keep it short, and short to me means it will take me a short time to correct. It's nothing really to do with the length of line. I could be further away and have more line out, but if it took me a short time to correct, I'd still consider that to be short. So I'd have the rope short but loose. So pretty much he doesn't know he's got it on. I would use it as a safety net only. So initially I'd initiate movement through my body language. If I want to move forwards, I firstly change something in my body, I give him the direction I want to go, then I take the step. Now, had he not followed, and in the beginning, why should they? They don't know to follow. Then what will happen is there'll be a little feel as you take the slack out of the rope, because there's distance now being created because you're moving, he's not, or not moving as fast. So the slack comes out, there's a feel, and then this will come around behind here. Boop. Which he's particularly sensitive to. So we need to make sure that that's not a threat to them, that this going over their back and touching them around the hindquarters, because you're going to mess it up too and get it wrapped around their legs and things. Got to make sure that's not an issue for them. So it's just a flick, boop. Oh, go forwards, okay? So I'd bring my energy up, my life up, something's changed, I'd give them the direction I want them to go, then I'd take the step, and we're going to head out. Now, there's so many different ways to do this and so many different positions to have a horse in. For those out there that have been doing liberty already, I'm not going to ask you to change the position you've asked your horse to be in. That's not an important part of this concept, but you have to have a position. So the more precise you are about where you want them as a default, the easier it is for them. In the beginning, it's not easy for them if I say you can be ahead of me, behind me, beside me, here and there. So I make it very, very clear. I want you right here. This is where I want you. Okay? So there's going to be a lot of pause, a lot of release right about there. And everything at this point is about position. Just like real estate. Position, position, position. So there's a little exercise you can play with. Once you start getting to where your horse is going with you, a little exercise you can play with is to turn around like so. And of course, what you want is your horse to stay in position. Now, what inevitably will happen is they fall back. And when they fall back, and they're falling back because in order to do that turn, what's happened is you've turned, you've put them further behind you. They have to actually go and cover more distance than you do, so they fall back a bit. So what happens there is then I would go catch up, and I'd flick behind, and inevitably they will come forward, but also a little bit out. Some a lot out if they're a little wary of the string there. They come out. So in this exercise, my horse falls back, I go, hey, catch up. He catches up, but he might be a little distance away because the energy, remember the energy was behind him, which created forwards, but it was also to one side, which created a little lateral movement. So it actually opens up the gap. Not really what we want, but that's inevitably the result of that. So then we keep coming, we keep him with us, and as we get to this rail, the rail brings him in tight, and as he comes in tight, you're both on the same path in a straight line, which means there's less effort. There was more effort in the circle because he had to kind of go faster than you, had to hustle a little bit. You asked him to hurry up and keep in position. He went out a little bit further, but he had to, because he went out further, he had to work even harder. And then as he came in, the rail put him next to you, and at that exact moment he came next to you, he didn't have to work as hard. I know, it's brilliant. Hold the applause. I know, it is brilliant. So that's what we're going to do. And then this should be a neutral. So this should be a neutral. And the game I would like you to play with your horse, or the goal initially would be, could you cause your horse to trot without asking him to? In other words, get to where he so wants to stay in position that to stay in position he might have to break gait. Okay, so here I'm going to speed it up just so I don't have to go too far for you. I'm going to speed it up. I might make my turn a little bit smaller, harder for them, and he will try and stay in position. So to do that, he might have to break gait. So, look what happened. As we got to the rail, because we're on the same track, he didn't have to trot. So it's easy for him to be close to me. Okay, so he's learning, easy to be close to you. And that's what will happen by doing that little exercise with your horse. It'll actually encourage them to draw into the sweet spot and stay near you. So there's so much more we could say about that, but that's probably enough to get you started. Have a play with it, have some fun, increase your draw.